so much for joining us today. I'm Julie Daigle. I'm the Regional Innovation Director for Quebec at, obviously, the Canadian Food Innovation Network, also known as CFIN. Today, we're talking about Agentic AI and how it could change the food industry. Most of us already know tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and so many more. And many companies use automation and dashboards. But today, we're talking about something very different. AI agents don't just answer questions, they also make decisions, complete tasks, and even work with people. So today, we'll explore what truly this means to food companies, manufacturers, retailers, and startups. And I'm super happy to welcome three great speakers with me today. Our first speaker is Myriam Ovad. Myriam leads integrated marketing at TasteWise. It's a AI platform built for the food and the beverage industry. TasteWise helps company understands what customers want and turns market data into actions for marketing, sales, and product development. Welcome, Myriam. Our second speaker is Mani Sadiki. Am I getting? Is that correct? Yes. Yep. Mani is the founder of Jero, an AI company that is changing the way fresh produce moves from farm to stores. His team is building AI tools that help companies make faster and better buying decisions. Welcome, Mani. And our third speaker is Matthias, and Matthias is based in Berlin. And I will need his help for his last name, please, Matthias.
Thanks, Julie. It's Matthias auf der Mauer.
There you go. Well, thank you so much. Matthias is the co-founder at Juna.ai, and his company develops AI agents that help factories improve production, reduce energy use, and make better decisions in real time. Welcome, Matthias.
Thank you so much.
Let's start with a simple question. Myriam, many people hear words like AI agents and agentic AI, but they may not know what it really means. So could you explain in simple words what an AI agent is? And please, can you tell us how is the difference from a chatbot, ChatGPT, or the automation tools companies already use?
Sure, fabulous. Thank you, Julie, for the invitation to be here, and fabulous to be with you, Mani and Matthias. It's a really important question, and I love that we're starting today off by level setting and making sure that we're all working from the same vocabulary. I know if you're anything like me, your LinkedIn is full of everyone giving away Claude skills and talking about AI agents, and maybe that's a part of your work, but maybe it isn't. So I would love to offer my perspective on what AI agents are and what they can do for you. So very basically, an AI agent is something that you can give a goal and you can give context. And both of those things are really important in conversation with one another. There are things involved in that, like instruction and, a connection through an MCP, a schedule. But one thing I want you to take away, that you need context and you need a goal. And the way that changes things is that for so many of us, we've been using AI for a while. At TasteWise, our AI platform has been in production already for almost 8 years. So we've been around since the very start of all of this. But the big change that's happening already and that is coming down the pipe is this agentic piece, right? So as Julie said, Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, you're familiar with all of that. The difference between agents and chatbots is that it can autonomously make decisions and execute on tasks. So instead of having a dashboard where you have to sit and process, analyze, and make a risk call or a judgment, agents can do that on your behalf. And importantly, within your context. And I know we'll talk more, I hope, about guardrails and safety and all of that stuff. But essentially, yeah, context and a goal and decision making is really the most important part here.
Thank you. That's a great overview. So that's where we are today. but where do you think we'll be in 3 or 5 years' time?
Sure. I can start, and I would love to hear others' perspectives on this as well. I think a mistake that a lot of teams make right now, if I might be so bold to say, is that they think the agentic era of food and beverage is coming, and it's already here. We're inside of what Sam Altman, has been from OpenAI has been discussing as, the singularity, the inflection point. Like the pace of change is just going to continue, and the really big building blocks of what that agentic era will look like are already here. So the big question is, what are you doing to adapt to it? I think no one can predict what 3 to 5 years is going to look like. Technology is going to change so rapidly next week, in a month, in a year. I think anyone that's trying to build a 3 to 5 year roadmap right now is going to come across some pretty big challenges to that perspective. So I would say the number one thing brands that will be successful need to do is really start doing their groundwork and their planning and their operational readiness, how they're thinking about how they execute, the way that they work as a team, the structures that are going to support these agents. That's the most important thing now to do to be ready for 3 years from now, because the technology is going to change, right? We're going to be talking about something else on this webinar in 2020, whatever year it's going to be, 2030 something, right? So yeah, I think things are going to look a lot different, but the work needs to be done today to prepare for that.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for the intro, Miriam. And now that we understand the idea, let's see what this looks inside a factory. And Matthias, the question is for you. So when people think about the factory automation, they often think about robots or machines that follow fixed rules, right? But AI agents can do so much more, as Miriam was describing. So Matthias, can you explain to us what AI agents can do inside a factory today?
Yeah, for sure. No, first of all, thanks a lot also from my side, and also, yeah, thanks Miriam for the good introduction of agents. I think extremely helpful. It's like kind of a foundation. I think in regards to factories, I think you already mentioned the term fixed automation, and I think this is in the end like really the key difference between like a fixed, like an automation and like agentic approach. So, I mean, robots and like automation has been there, but it's pretty much like fixed scripts that are pretty much running always the same way, and they're repeating exactly the same thing. So if you think of a robot, it's exactly following one trajectory and one specific task to do, and it can do this and not pretty much nothing else. You can reprogram it and then you can do something else, but pretty much it's fixed. And the same way, if you think of your MES system inside the factory, it's like similar. It's like executing a certain pattern, and like this is always similar. But the big problem is what's happening is like what happens if there's like something shifting, if like an ingredient is changing, its outside temperature is different, like any kind of additional things happening that are like not planned. Then let's say at the moment, usually like the automation breaks, and what happens is that in the end, like a shift leader or an operator or like a person has to do like a manual intervention and then basically decide on experience and gut feeling and like make a decision in the end on how to operate the system. And I think this is the key. If you think of like a fixed system and like an agent, what it can do is basically in the moment when there is now this drift or this change, it can use like context, as Miriam already described it. It can use the context, it can use like historic data, and it can like do a reasoning about what is actually now the best thing to do based on like what I know and the context. So similar like to a human. And this is really what changed it, like from this fixed principle to like a like kind of to a to like an autonomous system that is really like working. And like if you think of like the factory or like how this works is, first of all, I mean, there has been like a lot of data in the factories available, but like the data is not really being used because it's kind of trapped in data silos. So for example, in the ERP system or in the SCADA systems where there's a lot of data, but it's not accessible. And now what we are also doing with Juna is basically we connect the data together with a factory graph. We build the entire context of the factory, and then we build an agent on top in order to be able to take decisions and to use the context in order to, for example, do things in the factory. And like to make this more concrete, let's say for like one big ice cream manufacturer, we're working with them together, and optimizing their OEE. So pretty much their uptime, availability, and we take all the data from the plant, and then basically in real time, we understand, okay, here's a drift in like a certain parameter, what to do next. We do automatically trigger root cause analysis in order to figure out, we have like a drift in your settings, you should be adjusting this and that. And then at the moment, we do it more in a human in the loop approach. So we give recommendation on what to change and what to do. But overall, we really help then optimizing OEE, so throughput, energy consumption, quality. We reduce quality defects in this kind of approach, but it's way more adaptive to like a fixed program robot.
Okay. Thank you, Matthias. This is food production. If we move one step earlier in the process, before making food, companies first need to buy ingredients. Many fresh food, buying a fresh produce is not easy, as you all know. Prices change, quality changes, supply changes. Your company is building AI tools to help with these decisions, right? Can you explain how companies buy produce today? And please, can you help us understand better how can AI makes this process faster and smarter?
Yeah, no. The way we like to think, there's farmers who are growing the produce, and then there's grocery stores or restaurants who are using the produce or selling the produce. We're right in the middle. We call it the messy middle of the produce supply chain.
Okay.
And it's basically because it's pretty archaic. Everyone uses paper, pen, phone call, text. That's how data flows of a price of a produce item. On the demand side, it's pretty straightforward. There's e-commerce type experiences. Now, having said that, I was just at a Stripe FinTech conference because we're integrating payments into our systems, and they were all talking about agents to agent communication. So where you're going to come on your website, and your website will, based on the person, it will change. Like the options will change. So there's a lot of agentic experiences that are going to be coming there. On the supply side, which is what we have now focused all our attention on, actually building a project called BioOps with CFIN on it, is essentially being able to automate end-to-end all the buying decisions. Now that sounds like a very heavy statement because there's relationships, there's all these data points. So before we even did that, what we did was we actually built a data layer. Because you guys have said this, right? That garbage in, garbage out. So number one, you got to understand your data. So we actually stopped talking to our suppliers on the phone, started texting them on WhatsApp. So we started extracting, because you can extract data that way. So we have like years of data now as to how pricing works. They send all these price lists in PDFs, Excel, weird formats. So we kind of worked how to automate that into a specific structure, lining up with specific SKUs. So we cleaned up the data basically, right? And now that we have that, our buyers actually use it on a daily basis to make decisions. But we're looking at a lot of actions that are repetitive or have the same level of intelligence every day. They're asking the same kind of questions. And they're intelligent questions, it's just the same type of questions. So how can we start automating it piece by piece? Right now, the way agents work are you identify some information, they flag it, you make the decision. We're slowly evolving away from that, where those decisions that require sort of lower level intelligence can be kind of automated, and slowly, gradually, what can be passed on. So on our end, we are probably about 6 to 12 months away from completing how to automate a lot of the buy that happens on a daily basis, because there's all these data points and they're all stuck in people's heads. So you need to be able to systemize them and get them to the buyer faster. I think at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, if we can get the data right, that's probably 80% of the problem solved. And then it makes just buying decisions a lot easier.
Thank you, Manny. For the audience, I invite you to add your name, your company, and your contact info into the chat for everyone to know who's there and to say hello. Okay, back to our discussion. Now, let's move from buying ingredients to selling products. Miriam, Taste-wise helps company understand food trends. But today, as you mentioned, AI can do so much more than just show trends, right? So how marketing, sales, and R&D teams using AI as a real business partner? Can AI help them prepare reports, ideas, even presentation for retailers? Can you tell us more about that, please?
Sure. Yeah, that's a big question. So I think the short answer is yes, but I would love to share a little bit more about how and why, because obviously a simple yes is not enough to drive a business decision. Um, I want to pick up a few threads also from Matthias and from Manny, because I think they've said some really important things here to kind of bring the whole ecosystem of food and beverage together. Um, I want to start with what Manny just said around the primacy and importance of data. We all know garbage in, garbage out. We've been hearing that for a while. But truly, if we can get the data right, that is what's going to drive business value. I think MIT put out a study at the end of last year that 95% of AI pilots fail. And I am willing to bet that that's because they weren't built on the right data, right? Companies, I think, assume that they can slap on a Claude skill or a ChatGPT chatbot into their workflows, and that productivity is going to soar. And we know that that's not the case, right? And there's a fatigue line that companies can't prove ROI. They can't move the needle on business decisions with the more tools. They have to be the right tools built on the right data. So the reason I'm starting with that is because if you want an output that's client ready, like you mentioned, is really a retail sell-in deck or an internal pitch to bring a product idea to your team, those have to be evidence backed. And the only way to have those be evidence backed is to have the right data. So at TasteWise, we do that with what we call observed behavior. So any moments of consumption that is digitized, which if you think about today's food culture is basically all moments of consumption, right? You think about food culture on Instagram, Pinterest, digitized food and beverage menus, you name it, right? The whole world of recipes, right? So if you can really position your consumer and observed first person data at the center of the agents that you're building, then, as Manny said, you're already 80% of the way there, right? Data, as we know, is gold. What agents can do from you there is really extend your team. And I know there's a lot of anxiety around will AI replace people? Will AI take my job? And I think these are well-founded concerns. But I think the companies that can strike that balance between what should we keep to be human, what should we protect in our human staff? So creativity, relationship building. I saw some of the folks in the chat talking about wanting agents for sales. Agents for sales can do so much for you. They can prepare a deck for you. They can do all sorts of analysis, right? But they're not going to be able to walk into, a Denny's or whatever I guess, Tim Horton, is that a Canadian brand? They're not going to be able to walk in and create that relationship with a sales manager. That's a human thing, right? So I think companies, to kind of close out here, I think companies that can make smart decisions about what to protect that is human and what to delegate to agents and can do all of that on a really robust data layer are going to be really well positioned for market success. The last thing that I'll just call out here, and I think, sorry, Matthias, I would actually love to hear your perspective on this because I was thinking about your work at Juna here. So please, I would love to hear.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Were you done already? No.
Please go.
Yeah, I also wanted to give my perspective on the data layer. So exactly same observation. I mean, we're working with a lot of companies that have been like in the production environment, also like in the food industry, such as some of the largest food producers, but also like in other industries. Pretty much everyone has been using over the last few years since ChatGPT came out. In the factory context, it's more like using Microsoft and pretty much having tried out the chats on production data, and they've all been quite frustrated with the results. So pretty much exactly this garbage in, garbage out. And they were all like, okay, it's actually not working. It doesn't really work for our use case because let's say the sensor values, the sensor tags are not properly associated to the machine. So underlying, it's like all a mess. And pretty much when you ask a question and the foundation of it is a mess, it's like no wonder that it's like a complete mess, what you're getting out. And so also we have invested quite a lot into this, like we call it, for us, it's a semantic data layer. It's a factory graph, which completely is a digital representation of the factory and then associates all the unstructured knowledge that you have about the factory, so maintenance logs, manuals about machines, you can pretty much bring it all together, build a semantic data layer, and then when you put like a factory chat on top or like agents on top, they really have like the right foundation to really understand like the context of the factory, and this completely changes the results like completely drastically. And this is like the biggest aha moment we see at our customers is really like getting answers that are really answering their nailing questions, and also then building automations that are really helping them to do end-to-end workflows. This is really, really impressive to see. So 100% agreed here on what Miriam and Mani mentioned.
Thank you, Matthias. Anything to add, Miriam?
Sure, I'll ask one more question, and I would love to hear from Manny. I want to pull out one more piece here, because your question is really around the efficacy of agents. Can we trust it with our work and with our business? Manny said something interesting earlier that I want to pull out: agent to agent communication. And I think to the way that the language that we use, a system of agents, right? What does it look like when agents, and this actually relates to what Matthias was saying too, when agents can communicate, can work together? And what does that mean for our business structures? And I feel passionately that systems of agents and agentic thinking is going to break down silos within businesses. So those of you who are part of large CPGs on this call, or if you work somewhere else in the business, you are thinking about pain points that Matthias has named, you're thinking about pain points that I've named, and you're thinking about pain points that Manny has named. What would it look like if you and your colleagues were all operating from the same robust source of truth, right? Data, from whatever sourcing it is, and you were able to work in tandem that much faster and that much more effectively, so that you're not all working in silos, right? The pace of change is only going to continue in the consumer market. So I think agents are really the golden ticket to making sure we're working more effectively, we're not working in silos, we're collaborating at scale. And I think that's an important part of this conversation too.
Manny, do you before my next question, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything they said. I think we need to like kind of start straying away from the fact that our jobs are on the line. I think the reality is that when you start moving towards direction, I believe that we're actually going to be needing more people, because right now a person can only make a certain amount of judgment calls because they're so stuck doing so many things that they shouldn't be doing, but they're used to doing for so long. So when you are only making judgment calls, then you'll be like, well, I need to make, oh, why haven't we expanded in this category? Why haven't we expanded in that category? Oh, we need more people to launch this. I just think that it's like in the 1950s when like Ford started with automation on the assembly line. Everyone's like, what's going to happen to my jobs? Well, we figure it out because there's more value. Overall GDP, the pie size is going to increase. That's the bet. So yeah, I'm aligned.
Okay, good, super. Well, this brings us to an interesting question that we've been discussing already, is what happens when AI helps both demand and supply. And I like Miriam and Mani to ask you a question. Miriam, let's imagine Tastewise finds a new food trend today. How quickly could AI buying system react?
Wow, fabulous question. I think a lot faster than even anybody in the call can think about. Like the reality today is already happening. Our customers are seeing incredible gains in time. So what's used to take, if you think about the product development cycle, right? If you're thinking about pitch all the way to sales strategy, it's on the shelf, consumers are picking it up. That used to take anywhere between 12 to 18 months. And we're seeing that timeline compressed even down to 3 months. So incredible gains here.
Wow.
And if we're thinking about internal workflows, right? Identify a trend, make it happen internally, right? We're seeing even in days. So people are able to really put together all of the assets needed in days. I'll use just an example here that I think will really bring it home. There have been some recent studies, and I think the data is still, depends on which study that you're reading, but anywhere between 1 in 3 and 2 in 3 consumers today are interacting with agents, whether they know it or not, in the buying decision. So they're going to ChatGPT, they're asking what kind of beverage they should bring to their barbecue, right? They're going to Amazon and they're asking Amazon's AI assistant to pick out the right whatever it is for whatever it is, right? All the way through to really anything that you can think of. So the consumer themselves is already dealing with it just, and we are all consumers ourselves too, right? The pace of
Yeah.
change and the accessibility and the instant gratification and the shopping experience has changed incredibly so. So CPGs, food service, whoever you are, your work processes are going to have to compress significantly in order to meet that demand. So it's not just about food trends, although that is important. It's about understanding also consumer expectations have become so much faster. And only companies who can meet those in the moment, create the LTO that's going to speak to their needs based on last week's TikTok viral trend is only part of the answer, right? That's as much as the marketing ploy as anything else. It's really understanding the deep rooted consumer needs that trends are answering, and then have the systems in place to meet them quickly with the internal processes and workflows.
Love it. Thank you, Miriam. Mani,
Yeah.
on the buying side, could companies buy new ingredients right away and launch new products much faster than today?
Yes, 100%. I know we talked about months and days. I'm going to say minutes. So, for
Oh,
example, let's say Miriam has a restaurant. She does basil. That's part of her menu. She decides to change her menu at 9 a.m. We can actually have an agent watching the menu. If there's a change in the menu for that restaurant, we know that restaurant is a customer. We find out that she's changed from basil to Thai basil. And we know that 19 suppliers supply Thai basil. They're in our directory, or maybe we need to turn that item online for Miriam. She comes online at 10 a.m. or 9:15, 9:10, right? And we can turn Thai basil on. And as soon as she comes in, be like, hey, we have added a few new items. We believe your menu's changed. That could happen within 10 to 15 minutes. So
this is
that's on the food service side. I'm sure it'd take a little bit longer on the CPG or in manufacturing, but the closer you are to the customer, so that means for like D2C, it could even be a lot faster.
this is insane. It's so
Totally
mind
agreed.
blowing, too, of course, and it's so exciting. But we also need to think about risk. And I like to ask the three of you this question. If AI start making decisions, buying ingredients, changing a production, or placing orders, really what could go wrong? And how do companies make sure people stay in control? Who would like to start? Matthias, maybe?
Yeah, happy to start. No, also maybe on the discussion before, like I think in general, what we see also, it's a little bit different. It's like less about the decisions itself, but it's more like for us, what we see AI is also really speeding up the onboarding process, like to get like such a system running in production. We can really use unstructured data to learn from it to like set up the factory graph and like the factory model super easily. So that's quite impressive to see as well. So the processes are definitely like, I mean, in the past has been like very long onboarding times. Now it's dramatically reducing. And then regarding your question, of course, things can go wrong. I think that's also why it's even more important to not just to have like more a specific or a specific solution that is like built for the certain environment. So also like a solution like Juna is really built for industrial settings. So because of course, if we take a decision that is wrong about like kind of production or like a control system, you can definitely make mistakes that in the end lead to I don't know reduced quality or like higher energy. Definitely that could happen. But I think therefore it's very important that you have like also the let's say the system around it. First of all, I think what we really see is like we usually start with our customers in the first place, really in the human in the loop approach. That means we give recommendations on like we found this inefficiency. So I would recommend change this temperature, change this, change that, and you will come back. And this is basically it's a support, it's a recommendation tool. It helps because what happened before is they had the inefficiency and they were running the equipment inefficient for a long time. And so it already helps a lot to just know earlier that you have an issue. So I think this is usually like the first step. But then what we see over time, customers are building trust, and then let's say in safeguarded use cases. So for example, in maintenance, let's say we figure out there's an issue on a line, we figure out there's something that needs to be done, we should create a work order. It can automatically create a work order in the SAP system and then can trigger like a follow-up workflow, which has been quite manual before and took time and was not automated. So let's say for these kind of use cases, you can then really close the loop and do it end to end. So that's why we safeguard it in a way. And then on top, we build a lot of security systems around our system. So we make sure the data foundation is correct, it's grounded in reality. And so there's a lot of safeguards. We build a lot of testing frameworks in order to make sure that the decisions we take are correct. And so that's why I think this is also the additional value we bring on top of like a typical, I mean, you could just go and use Claude in your industrial setting and see what happens, but it's like also some of the infrastructure we're building.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthias. Miriam?
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. So I think one of the powerful promises that agents gives us is the ability to work at scale. Right? Manny was talking about this before, that like we simply cannot make the amount of decisions that are necessary to move at scale, and agents can do that for us. So scale is only possible when you delegate decision making. But the impact of that scale is that when those decisions go wrong, when you're working on a bad signal, when something breaks in a factory, when supply chain gets screwed up, right? The risk is much larger. So enterprise grade first and foremost, right? And I would advise anyone who's onboarding an AI partner, and we'll talk about build versus buy in a moment, but anybody who's onboarding an agentic partner, an AI partner, whatever, enterprise grade first and foremost. Make sure they know what they're talking about. Make sure that a lot of you are probably already setting up AI committees, right? But again, none of us have done this before. This is a new world we're operating in. So make sure that they know what they're talking about, that you have the enterprise grade foundation, both on the data side and on the builds. I think because data is so important to what all three of us do, but especially to Tastewise, making sure that your data is statistically significant, that your vendor can answer all of the questions that you have around data and what it means about your consumer, or whatever it is that you're working on is crucial. I'll also say that agents can have checks and balances built in. And this is the exciting thing about systems of agents. You can have an agent whose job it is to investigate other agents and make sure that they're doing what you've programmed them to do. And they learn as you go. So I loved Matthias's example of, something breaks and sending in a work order. I'm sure you have an agent who's learning from that to figure out next time what not to do and how to improve. So all of us are building this into agentic systems. If you're onboarding a vendor who doesn't have something like that, that should be a red flag. I'd also say that bringing it back down to the realm of humans who are doing all of these pilot implementations, start small. This is my biggest advice to everybody. It's amazing to create a smart factory, but you're not going to get there tomorrow, right? So take a business problem, iterate on it, challenge your team to work like a software company and ship something in 6 weeks and see where you get, right? And decide, should I build, should I buy, on the information that you get from there. But I think there's an expectation at a lot of these companies that you have to become agentic overnight. And yes, by tomorrow, you should have something new in your agentic, visioning. But allow your team the flexibility to grow and to build in lower stakes decision making before you then scale that up to have your entire business on the line. I think the companies who do that well are going to be the ones who succeed. The last thing I wanted to say is accountability. So making sure that you have the human team infrastructure set up so that somebody is watching the agents, somebody is responsible for managing them, right? Teams are moving away from buying software to managing agents. So make sure you have the right people managing the right agents, downloading their context, their expertise, so that the agents are making the right decisions in the right moment.
Thank you, Manny.
Yeah, we have a saying at Jitto, I trust you, but I'll verify. It's just a rule. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter who it is. I trust you, but I verify. And I think the same thing will be going for agents for a while. I think AI is an amazing thing when it gives you this beautiful output and you're like, oh, everything. But what's really scary with leveraging AI is when you get an answer and it's wrong, but it looks right.
Yeah.
I think that's something that everyone should really be careful for. For example, for us, we get hundreds of price lists from these suppliers, and a price list is just a number on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And how do you use that data? So the way we've sort of checks and balances what Miriam was talking about is like one, well, we're buying the potato. So when you buy the potato from the invoice goes back and verifies that and updates that data point that supplier A did not actually have potatoes at 19, they had it at 21. And it's like it grows and it sort of detects if a customer complained about something, well, now that supplier has sort of a red flag on it, and that potato is taken off the buy sheet. So these things that humans will kind of do is like, oh no, that supplier wasn't great to me yesterday. I need to like remember that in my head and not buy from like all of these things are going to make your life easier. But you can also kind of go when you have bad data, that's when things look good, and everything is looks like a great answer, but it's the complete opposite. That's a really scary place to play in. So you got to put your checks and balances in. You have to give autonomy at a gradual rate. So kind of what Miriam said is like, don't go overnight, build it in pieces. Everyone who works here has like a Claude Pro subscription or whatnot, right? Can we code some sort of a solution before you go to engineer? Can you just build it overnight or over weekend, like a hackathon? Like, what's the solution we can build before we even try to integrate into the system? To see if it's worth it. So yeah, checks and balances. Be careful when the answer looks too good. It probably is too good. It's too good to be true. And yeah, gradual, slow and steady wins the race. I know it doesn't line up with AI, but I think implementing AI, slow and steady wins the race.
Thank you, Manny. Anything else to add before our next question? No. Okay, so now let's think about Canadian companies. Many food companies in Canada are SMEs, as you may know. Now they may ask, where do we start? If you were giving advice to Canadian food company today, what should they do first? Should they improve their data, invest in digital tools, train their employees? What's your advice? Matthias, could you please start?
Sure, no, happy to start. I think also agreed on what Miriam and Mani said. Definitely, I would recommend to start small. Always, I would go like one use case at a time. It's also like I think it helps like kind of like prototyping, building like a small case, understanding how it works, and then kind of iterate yourself to like the larger solution. In the factory context, what it means is what we usually do with our customers at the very beginning is like kind of start with like a process or like a line or like a certain sub part of your factory, which is, for example, very energy intensive, or where you already know you have like a quality, like often quality issues or maintenance issues. And then we say, okay, we start with this line. We can even like do like very, very fast, small POCs where we connect the data from the line, we build this data foundation model for the line, and then basically we can very easily, even on historic data without any data integration, show you end to end. This is like what, and we can build an agent for you that basically shows you what you can do in terms of energy savings, quality reduction, and so you can like pretty easily in a small scale get started. This is, I would say, for a factory, what you can do very easily and very, very fast. Overall, I think what is really nice is that in general, like also AI and AI agents can really help like also clean up the data mess that's potentially there. I think it's like building a crazy data strategy. Probably like it's not the time right now. I would rather like, of course, start connecting the data as much as possible, but I would rather start small instead of like building a super big strategy. I think I would rather work on the AI strategy as a higher level thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can go next.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Sure. So yeah, I agree with Matthias, getting your data in order, clean, structured. If you don't know how to do that, there are so many people in the market who can help you. Again, build versus buy. Should you be working only with your internal data? Probably not. You need to be having more robust, but again, you probably have data already. So I think just getting it clean and ready is crucial. I would actually challenge everybody to find 15 minutes in your day today. Sit down with a pen and paper. Don't do this in Claude. Sit down with a pen and paper, and think about your workflows, your team's workflows. Whether you're a manager, you're not, it doesn't matter. You cannot agentify a workflow that you can't describe or name. So pick a workflow, pick two, doesn't matter. Write down the handful of things that you or your team do over and over and over again. And that's your map. Start there. I really would suggest think about an internal workflow that you can agentify and start building your muscle there. Think about what it is, and then let's get bigger. Let's think about the next phases. But for me, it's helpful to have something concrete to start with. So I would start there. The third thing that I would do is, so first the data, second is the audit, and then third I would say we have a saying here at TasteWise. And Manny, I liked your saying of trust and verify. Matthias, I would love to hear if you have any internal sayings. Something that we say a lot is to the market is how can you take your best employee, whether it's a salesperson, a marketer, an innovator, whatever it is, and how can you level the rest of that team up to meet them? How can you do that with agents? What is something that your salesperson does so well and makes them the overperformer every month, every quarter? How can you identify that and then build the agent to bring everybody else up with them? So how can you raise the level of your team? I think that's the third piece I would do. So data, audit, and then think about how to democratize excellence, as we say, to make sure that you can take everybody along with you.
Thank you, Miriam. Manny?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
double down on
regarding,
that. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Manny. Sorry.
Okay.
No, just
Okay. Yeah, I would double down on the everything Miriam said. That- just start with one process. Find something, is it coding, ordering, pricing, update, something that you can kind of get a hold of within like a 1 hour session by yourself. And yeah, start with paper pen. Don't overthink it. I think people overthink and then they get exhausted by looking at AI and then Googling things. So yeah, start with one. I think the mission is get the data out of your heads, in boxes and paper. Eventually, that would be step two. And then what your goal should be is like, how do I get this data in a position where when my agent goal is shopping around my ecosystem for data or information, they can just come and grab it. And I can trust that it's there. Or there's verifications agents. So there's agents and then there's verification agents on top, right? So there's lots of things you can do, but instead of overthinking it, go find a process, one that you repeat every week that's low risk. Nobody will ask too many questions if you try to do it, and start there. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Mathis.
Thank you. Matthias, you wanted to add something?
yeah, just wanted to comment on what Miriam was saying because she was asking. I mean, we definitely also have the checks and balances and like verification agents, making sure that like our results are correct. I mean, we have like big benchmarks here in our office on like how our agents are doing and like how to make sure they are actually doing the right things. Definitely. I also want to say like yeah, I think this third part is like kind of how do you level up everyone in the company to get to your, in our case, it's the operators of machines and equipment. So pretty much what we do a lot is like we help pretty much everyone to get to the level of the best operator of like running the systems and running the machines. So basically we make everyone or we help everyone improve to this level of the best operator, and like in the end it overall improves how to operate your equipment in the manufacturing side. So definitely see the same effects here.
Thank you, Matthias. So before we take questions from the audience, I'd like to ask you one more question. Outside your own company, what AI application in the food industry are you most excited about? Is there a company or technology that you're watching closely right now? Miriam, could you start, please?
Wow, great question. Yeah, I think e-commerce is like agentic e-commerce is super interesting. Of course, we touched on it a little bit, but not in the ways that I mean right now. I think finding a way to balance ease of decision making for consumers with privacy considerations. So how do you hyper personalize while also protecting consumer privacy is fascinating, and I think companies are going to get it right. And I can't wait to see what happens when we do.
Awesome, thank you. Manny?
Yeah, I'd say instead of industry, I'd actually kind of Stripe. We're big fans of Stripe here, the way they run their business. When we went to their conference, they kind of say that we're running the piping infrastructure of the internet economy, right? And they're not at the forefront. They're in the back and building out the pipes of how money's flowing around. So I think that's the company I'm looking for. That's where the word first time I heard agent to agent commerce that is coming. So I'd say um, I'm looking forward to seeing how agent to agent commerce are going to work across different industries as well. That's one thing.
Thank you, Manny. Matthias, what's
Yeah, I think
exciting you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it really excites me is like in general, also this entire, I mean, we are more on the production operations side, but I think on the, let's say, more R&D side, like developing new products, I think speed of development is really not just in like software, but also like in R&D processes, which used to, let's say, design of experiments, these kind of processes used to take ages. I think it's really speeding up, like really new products being built very quickly. I think, yeah, also like really improving the flywheel. I think this is really, really exciting. Um, and yeah, I think more like in general, like the entire how software is being built and like how fast and how um, yeah, like how accurately you can now build custom software. Of course, it has to be done right. So we build a lot of systems to make it possible for our customers to build custom software, but it's like properly checked, properly tested, properly like in a proper framework. And I think this enables completely new like yeah applications and efficiencies for not just food companies but generally like companies. I think this is quite exciting of the whole development at the moment.
Thank you, Matthias. Okay, now it's your turn to ask questions. So if you have a question that is burning, please write it down to the Q&A section. It's your chance to ask our panelists, our experts, questions you may have. I'll turn to my colleague Jess that will take over the Q&A period, and I'll be back with you in a few minutes for the final question. Jess?
Yeah, hi. So we had a couple of questions. The first one is, I'm interested in food safety testing and quality control and would like to know how agentic AI can automate this. Anyone?
I mean, I could answer on the factory side. I don't know if Miriam or someone else would like to.
I have a small thing to add after you. Yeah.
Yeah, I could go on the factory side. I mean, for example, what we see at the moment is just to take one example, we're working with ice cream companies, and one big issue like is in OEE or one part of OEE is quality and quality control. So basically, there's always yeah bad quality output, which comes from like which comes from not ideal changeovers from one product to another product, and then basically in the changeover times, there's always bad quality, which is waste in the end. Then what happens is like if let's say on an ice cream line the temperatures are not ideal, it might happen that you come out of your quality specs. If your machine is not properly set, you might have too high air input on your ice cream, which then in the end leads to bad quality output. So basically you're out of specs. And all of these come from like not ideal production settings, not ideal production processes. And pretty much with an AI agent, what you can do is you monitor like the data in real time. And then basically once like, let's say there's a danger of your machine settings going out of hand, it would recommend how to adjust the settings in order to come back into a region of good quality or like closer to your optimal ideal settings. And this way you can just prevent even waste and bad quality output, and basically reduce waste and reduce bad quality on your lines. I think this is how it usually works on the production lines.
I think that's much more of a robust answer than I can answer since I'm not on the production side. But I will say sort of almost tangentially, but the regulatory aspect of this is interesting, I think, because that is involved in the food safety, at least piece, and quality control. I think one of the ways that you can, and we actually just released an agent for this, for kind of a recall tracker, but use agents to help you identify the right switches for anything that comes under regulatory scrutiny, that fits inside of your portfolio, your budget, your existing workflows, your existing supply chain, and then how that can work into your products. That's something that takes a lot of manual work and thinking that agents can quickly do for you. So that's just another small thing that you could work into what you're doing.
I'll jump in and add around traceability. So when there's an outbreak or something happens, how you're tracking your data. If you bought a certain lettuce from a certain supplier, what data did they have in the invoice? How are you collecting that? What lot numbers? So all of this stuff is usually sitting in Google Sheets and Excel, or invoices. Nobody touches them. Agents can extract them. They can verify them. They can put a human in the loop to verify things that they don't understand, and eventually they will. So yeah, I think there's a lot of pieces that you can data just sitting around. So I'd start again, just small, with one supplier, and kind of start building a solution. You don't need an AI team to build it out. You can probably start small on traceability piece.
Mhm. Actually, on this part, traceability, definitely, we also do customer complaint handling. So for example, there's like, let's say a product is being shipped to the customer, there's a complaint, figuring out what were the root causes that led to the bad quality of output, and like what you need to do in terms of continuous improvement in order to optimize your basically like your production. This is also one part, like a process we are helping to optimize with agents as well.
Awesome. Listening about agentic AI, I think back to SAP implementation. SAP caused financially disruptive impacts upon the industry at that time. How can or will this be different?
I've been through an SAP, and I've done some as well in my past life. And I think every time you do a big tech implementation, it's sort of like modular. Well, the thing is that in in the new world, you're actually going to be able to be even much more smaller. So it will be gradual change, while not an overnight switch. And I think that will help with transition. So instead of big system coming and taking over and a go live date on a certain, you can actually start piecing it slowly, department by department or task by task, so it doesn't feel like a massive change management activity.
Also, I mean, I can add as well, definitely we are working a lot with SAP in our daily lives because like pretty much like almost a lot of our customers are using SAP, and we build a lot of SAP integrations. It's less the, let's say, yeah, like switching, for example, or like kind of the updating of SAP, but it's really like SAP integrations and so on. And I built another company before this one, which was also in the industrial AI world without agents. We did also a lot of SAP integrations back then. We work with more than 100 industrial clients, and it used to take a lot of time. I mean, also like we see all of our customers in SAP transformation processes. And I think really with like AI coding and like agents that can build even specific code for SAP, very custom for the specific thing. I mean, like the timelines that we see in SAP implementations and SAP integrations, it's even we are like impressed by how fast you can onboard such complex systems now. So for us, I mean, we brought down onboarding times like sometimes to less than days, like in the day range rather than months range.
I'll add to that just quickly. I think agents, the way that software has developed so much and agentic AI has developed, it's much more intuitive than any disruptive process you're thinking about SAP integrations, or when SAP started to become a thing and how painful that could be and how disruptive that could be. Agents are much more intuitive in a lot of ways. They're built to be intuitive. They're built to work into your existing workflows. So yes, disruption is the part of any technological change, but I wouldn't overstate it. I think that these tools are built for you to use them in a much more integrative and intuitive way.
Awesome. I think we're going to ask one more. So, can generative data synthesis be part of an agentic AI to improve the expected outcome? Anybody?
I mean,
Sorry, could
yes.
you?
Sorry, Manny, go ahead.
No, I was like, could you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Can generative data synthesis be part of an agentic AI to improve the expecting outcome?
I think so. I mean, I'm not a GDS expert on this, but the answer is yes. As far as I understand about what GDS is and large language models and diffusion models and natural language processing and all of that stuff to kind of, and again, apologies if my ignorance is showing here, but my understanding is that it is a way of synthesizing data to reflect real world information. So yes, this is a bottom line structurally important thing to prioritize when you're building the right data set. But I'll let others maybe who have more information comment.
Yeah, I mean, I can comment more. I think in general, yes. I think it highly depends on the application. I mean, just to make one example, I've been also in the past working with, for example, reinforcement learning, which is a specific space of like AI. And so basically, I mean, also self-driving cars is a lot being trained in simulation data and so on. And so they are definitely like, I think this data synthesis can help. I think for us, for example, in our case, we really like to stay with the actual data of the customer. Because I mean, you can have simulations for certain parts, but in order to ground it in reality, we rather do this. So in our case, we don't use it, so I can't comment too much on it. But I see definitely some applications where it makes sense, like training and simulation and so on. Yeah, but not too much. We're not using it too much, to be honest.
I'll use a bridge example though, of something that we are doing that I think can maybe help you think about this differently. We just created a product around AI panels. So the idea here is, and this isn't exactly GDS, but it's tangentially related. AI panels is the idea of, okay, a typical food and beverage company, you want to put together a panel, a feedback group, whatever, right? It's pretty small in scale. Typically, it's budget limited. It takes a really long time. Agents can synthesize the data from observed consumer data. So again, rooted in reality, like Matthias is saying, but then can create personas based on that intake of billions of data points, and then create a subset for your panel at the scale of thousands and millions. So it is in some ways generated data, but it is always rooted in statistically significant real world data. But it allows you to make decisions based on kind of scaled data points, if that makes sense.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just going to share a few slides. Okay. So CFIN has a CFIN Plus membership, which is designed for food tech innovators, manufacturers, entrepreneurs, and researchers looking to accelerate their growth. CFIN Plus members get access to data, insights, exclusive partner offers, and direct support to help turn ideas into impactful solutions. So if you scan the QR code, you will get 10% off your CFIN Plus membership today.
Jess, do you have like another view? Because
It's not sharing properly?
nope.
Oh,
I think that might be better now. Oh, there you go.
there we
You
go.
got
Sorry
it.
about that. If you're interested in collaborating with CFIN or exploring partnership opportunities, we'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out to Mona to start a conversation. And I'd like to highlight a few upcoming opportunities to stay connected with CFIN. We hope that you'll join us for our next webinar on August 27th, sorry. Or if you're nearby, we have several women in food tech events in Vancouver, Calgary, or Montreal this September. And looking ahead to the new year, we're excited to launch our first ever CPG Productivity Lab in Mississauga on January 13th. If you're a food manufacturer in CPG looking to improve efficiency, solve operational challenges, or connect with industry experts, we hope that you'll join us. And before we finish, I'd also like to highlight our current Unpuzzling Food Tech Ontario funding opportunities. If you're an Ontario-based food or food tech company with an innovative project, applications are open, but don't wait, they close very soon. All right, Julie, go ahead and close
Thank
it
you,
out.
Jess. It's all the time we had. You were awesome. I'm sure everyone is clapping in front of their screen. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Mani and Matthias. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope this conversation gave you new ideas and showed you that agentic AI is not just the future. It's starting to change the food industry today. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and see you soon.